The command center erupted into controlled chaos. Security officers moved with practiced efficiency, relaying orders to defense stations along Vanguard's perimeter. Tactical displays illuminated with red threat indicators as Wei's forces advanced from multiple directions. First wave approaching southeast checkpoint, Cattleman reported, his eyes fixed on the sensor readouts. 4 armored transports, approximately 40 personnel. Second wave from the west, another officer added. Similar composition, but they're moving more cautiously. Looks like they're waiting for the southeast assault to draw our attention. Rourke studied the tactical display, quickly assessing the threat pattern. Wei's strategy was clear: divide Vanguard's defenders with multiple simultaneous attacks, then push through the weakest point. It was textbook military doctrine, which made it predictable. "He's underestimating us," Rourke observed. "These formations are designed for civilian crowd control, not military engagement." "Sentinel doesn't have a military," Cattleman pointed out. "None of the colonies do, just security forces, except us," Elliot said with grim satisfaction. "And Wei forgot that," Rourke nodded. Unlike the other colonies, Vanguard had maintained strict military protocols since landfall. Their security personnel weren't just trained to maintain order. They were prepared for combat, following traditions established aboard the colonial vessels during their long journey from Earth. "Status of civilian shelters?" Rourke asked. 90% capacity and rising, Karras reported. "Emergency protocols are functioning as designed." "Good." Rourke turned to Geo. "I need you on the communication array. If Wei's forces breach our perimeter, the array becomes our fallback position. It must be protected at all costs." The young officer nodded sharply. "I'll coordinate with the technical team. We might be able to accelerate final calibrations if we divert additional power." "Do it," Rourke authorized. "That array is our best chance to end this without excessive bloodshed." As Geo departed, a new alert sounded. The tactical display showed Wei's southeast force had engaged the perimeter defenses. Weapons fire registered on multiple sensors. "First blood," Elliot muttered. Rourke's expression hardened. "Put me through to all Vanguard channels." When the communications system activated, he spoke clearly and firmly. "This is Captain Rourke. Vanguard colony is under attack by forces loyal to Chief Administrator Wei. All security personnel are authorized to use necessary force to protect our people and our territory. But remember, the colonists in the other settlements are not our enemies. Wei's security forces are the target, not civilians. Maintain discipline, protect each other, and know that we fight not just for Vanguard, but for the truth all colonists deserve." He paused, then added with steel in his voice, "Wei crossed this line, not us. Now we show him exactly what that means." "Rourke out." Turning to Elliot, he continued with quiet intensity. "I want to make something absolutely clear, Major. Wei started this fight, but we're going to finish it. Decisively. This isn't just about defending our colony anymore. It's about ensuring that corruption and deception have no place in humanity's future on this world." Elliot's weathered face broke into a wolfish grin. "Custer's about to get lucky, sir." "Coordinate our defense," Rourke ordered. "Hold the perimeter, but prepare mobile response teams. When Wei's forces commit fully, I want counterstrike options ready." "Already in progress," Elliot confirmed. "Walsh is positioning sniper teams on the eastern ridge. They'll have clean sight lines if Wei's people breach the outer defenses." The tactical display updated, showing the southeastern attack faltering under coordinated fire from Vanguard's defensive positions. But the western force was accelerating its approach, clearly intended to exploit any weakness. "They're probing," Rourke observed. "Testing our response time and firepower." "And finding more than they bargained for," Elliot replied with satisfaction. "Perimeter teams report minimal casualties, multiple hostile forces retreating." Cattleman looked up from his station. "Sir, we're detecting unusual movement at New Dawn Colony. Not military, looks like civilian activity. Large groups gathering in public spaces." "Show me," Rourke ordered. The display shifted to surveillance footage from reconnaissance drones positioned near New Dawn. The images showed hundreds of colonists assembled in the main plaza, facing off against Wei's security personnel. Some held improvised weapons, others displayed makeshift signs with slogans like "Truth Now" and "No More Lies." "They're rising up," Karras breathed. The evidence Walsh delivered to Forrester must have spread faster than we anticipated. Or Wey's attack on Vanguard was the catalyst they needed, Rourke suggested. Nothing exposes a lie like the length someone will go to protect it. "Similar reports coming in from Hope's Calling," Cattleman announced. "Smaller groups, but definitely organized resistance. They're blocking security checkpoints, preventing reinforcements from reaching Wey's attack force." Rourke felt a surge of cautious optimism. If the other colonies were beginning to resist Wey's authority, his military operation might collapse from within. But that also created new dangers. Wey might become desperate, more willing to escalate violence to maintain control. "Maintain defensive posture," he ordered, "but prepare second-phase operations. If Wey's forces start to fracture, I want to be ready to exploit the opportunity." "What kind of opportunity did you have in mind, sir?" Elliot asked. Rourke's eyes were cold. "The kind that ends with Wey in custody and this deception exposed once and for all." The next hour brought increasingly favorable reports. Wey's initial assault had been repelled with minimal casualties on either side. The disciplined response from Vanguard's defenders had clearly surprised the attacking forces, who had retreated to regroup rather than press the engagement. Meanwhile, resistance in the other colonies continued to grow. Walsh's team had established secure communication with Forrester in New Dawn, who reported that nearly a third of the colony had openly turned against Wey's authority. Similar uprisings were occurring in Hope's Calling and the smaller outposts. Most surprising was the news from Sentinel Colony itself. Despite being Wey's power base, significant numbers of colonists had begun challenging his security forces, particularly after news spread of his military action against Vanguard. Latest intelligence suggests Wey has lost control of Sentinel's main plaza, Walsh reported, having just returned from coordinating with resistance elements through the tunnel system. His security forces are falling back to the administrative complex. "And Wey himself?" Rourke asked. "Last confirmed at Sentinel Command, but reports suggest he's preparing to evacuate," Walsh replied. "The situation there is deteriorating rapidly. His own people are turning against him." Elliot studied the tactical display thoughtfully. "He'll need a fallback position, somewhere defensible with communication capabilities." "Outpost Alpha," Cattleman suggested. "The meteorological station in the northern foothills. Isolated, heavily shielded, minimal approach vectors. It would be the logical choice for a last stand." Rourke considered this. If Wey retreats to the outpost, he'll take his most loyal forces with him, the ones most complicit in the Paradise Protocol deception. "The perfect opportunity to capture them all in one operation," Elliot observed. "Clean, contained, away from civilian population. Prepare an assault team," Rourke decided. "Our best personnel, full tactical loadout. If Wey makes for the outpost, I want to be ready to move immediately." "You're not thinking of leading this personally?" Karras asked, concern evident in her voice. "That's exactly what I'm thinking," Rourke confirmed. "Wey made this personal when he attacked my colony and lied to my people. I intend to be there when he answers for it." Before Karras could object further, the command center's main display activated with an incoming transmission from Director Phillips of New Dawn Colony. "Captain Rourke," Phillips began, his usual placid demeanor replaced by obvious agitation, "I'm contacting you under unusual circumstances. I'm aware of the situation in New Dawn," Rourke replied evenly. "Your people have shown remarkable courage today." Phillips looked uncomfortable. "Yes, well, the fact is, they've made their position quite clear. They no longer recognize Wey's authority as chief administrator." He cleared his throat nervously. "Nor, it seems, do they recognize mine as fully legitimate." "What are you proposing, Director?" Rourke prompted. "A ceasefire, to start," Phillips said quickly. "I've ordered New Dawn security forces to stand down and return to colony protection duties only. No further support will be provided to Wey's military action against Vanguard." "That's a good first step," Rourke acknowledged. "But it doesn't address the underlying issue. the Paradise Protocol deception. Phillips's discomfort visibly increased. We can discuss that matter in due course. The important thing now is to prevent further bloodshed. Agreed, Rourke said firmly. And the fastest way to do that is for the remaining council members to publicly acknowledge what Wei has been hiding. That Earth has gone silent, and all supposed communications from Earth Command for the past 7 months have been fabricated. That's a complex issue, Phillips hedged. It's really not, Rourke countered. It's a simple matter of truth versus lie. The evidence is irrefutable. Earth is silent. The Paradise Protocol was created to hide that fact and maintain control over the colonies. Phillips seemed to deflate slightly. You don't understand the panic that would cause, the chaos. What I understand, Rourke said firmly, is that genuine freedom requires truth, however uncomfortable. Your people are already demanding it. That's what those protesters in your plaza are fighting for. After a long moment, Phillips nodded reluctantly. I'll discuss the matter with Councillor Ezra. In the meantime, I formally request that Vanguard security forces refrain from any offensive action against New Dawn. My forces have never targeted civilians, Director, nor will they engage security personnel who aren't actively threatening Vanguard, Rourke assured him. But Wei and his loyalists will be held accountable. That's non-negotiable. The transmission ended with Phillips looking distinctly unsettled. Elliot chuckled darkly. He folded faster than I expected, the security chief observed. Phillips always was more bureaucrat than leader, Rourke replied. He'll follow whoever holds the most power at any given moment. And right now, that's you, Karras noted. Before Rourke could respond, Walsh burst into the command center, breathing hard from apparent exertion. Captain! Confirmed reports, Wei is evacuating Sentinel Command. 3 transports heading north under heavy security, estimated 20 to 30 personnel accompanying him. Outpost Alpha, Rourke said decisively, just as we predicted. He turned to Elliot. Status of our assault team? Ready and waiting, sir, Elliot confirmed. 4 tactical transports, 40 personnel, full combat load. Walsh has coordinated with sympathizers in Sentinel to ensure clear passage through their territory. Then we move immediately, Rourke ordered, already striding toward the door. Cattleman, you have command of Vanguard in my absence. Karras, continue work on the communication array. We'll need it operational regardless of what happens with Wei. Captain, Karras called after him, her expression grave, remember why we came to this world. Not to recreate Earth's conflicts, but to build something better. Rourke paused at the doorway. That's exactly why Wei has to be stopped, Doctor. His lie would poison everything we build here. His eyes hardened. Some cancers can only be treated by cutting them out entirely. The 4 Vanguard transports moved swiftly across the northern plains, maintaining a low altitude to avoid detection. In the lead vehicle, Rourke studied tactical readouts showing Wei's convoy still en route to Outpost Alpha. They had time to establish position before Wei's arrival, a significant tactical advantage. Outpost will be visible in approximately 90 seconds. All units, final briefing, Rourke transmitted to the assault team. Our objective is to capture Wei and his senior staff intact. They have information about the Paradise Protocol that we need, and they must face justice for their actions. But make no mistake, they will resist with lethal force, and you are authorized to respond accordingly. Priority targets are Wei himself and his security chief, Commander Chamberlain. Both should be considered armed and extremely dangerous. The transports crested the ridge, revealing Outpost Alpha nestled against the foothills below. The facility was smaller than a full colony, but significantly more fortified, originally designed to withstand the planet's occasional severe storms. Its reinforced walls and limited entry points would make it a formidable defensive position if Wei's forces reached it first. No sign of Wei's convoy yet, Walsh reported, scanning the approach routes with high-powered optics. But there's activity at the outpost. Looks like they're preparing for arrivals. They must have advance teams already in place, Elliot surmised. Securing the facility before Wei's arrival, Rourke made a quick tactical assessment. We need to take the outpost before Wei arrives. Walsh, deploy sniper teams on the eastern and western ridges. They'll provide overwatch and intercept any of Way's people who attempt to flee. Elliot, your team will approach from the south and breach the main entrance. My team will insert via the maintenance access on the northern wall. The assault teams deployed with practiced efficiency, each unit moving to their designated positions with minimal communication. The element of surprise was their greatest advantage. If Way's advance team realized they were under attack, they would have time to establish defensive positions that would be costly to overcome. Rourke led his 8-person team across the rocky terrain toward the outpost's northern face. They moved in standard formation, weapons ready but not yet drawn. From the outside, they might have been a routine security patrol rather than an assault force, a deliberate choice to avoid alerting the outpost's occupants. Distance to insertion point, 200 meters, one of his team members reported quietly. Thermal scans show minimal activity on the northern side. 2 personnel near the environmental control systems, none along our approach vector. Maintain current pace, Rourke ordered. Elliot, status. In position, came the Major's reply through their secure channel. Ready to breach on your mark. Walsh, sniper teams deployed and scanning. We have eyes on 3 sentries at the main entrance and 2 on the eastern observation platform. No sign of Way's convoy yet, but dust clouds suggest they're less than 10 minutes out. Understood. Rourke's team had reached the outpost's exterior wall. All units prepare to execute. On my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. The coordinated assault began with precision and overwhelming force. Sniper teams neutralized the external sentries simultaneously, using non-lethal rounds that incapacitated without killing. At the same moment, Elliot's team breached the main entrance with a controlled explosive charge, while Rourke's unit accessed the northern maintenance door using override codes provided by sympathizers within Sentinel's technical division. As Rourke's team moved through the door, the quiet efficiency of their assaults shattered. Instead of the expected light resistance, they faced a wall of concentrated weapons fire from well-prepared defensive positions. Ambush! Rourke shouted, diving for cover as bullets tore through the air around him. All units fall back and regroup. 2 of his team members were hit immediately, one crying out as a round pierced his shoulder, the other falling silently, struck in the head. Rourke grabbed the wounded officer and dragged him behind a maintenance console as the rest of the team returned fire. Elliot, report, he demanded over the comm. Heavy resistance at the main entrance, Elliot responded, the sound of gunfire audible in the background. They were waiting for us, Captain. This isn't an advance team. Way's already here. Rourke's mind raced, reassessing the situation. They had walked into a trap. Somehow, Way had anticipated their assault and prepared accordingly. Walsh, status of sniper teams? Holding positions, sir, but we're taking fire from the outpost's upper levels. They've got heavy weapons in place. This was planned. A barrage of gunfire interrupted their communication, forcing Rourke's team deeper into cover. The narrow maintenance corridor had become a killing zone, offering limited protection and no easy retreat. We need to press forward, Rourke decided, his voice steady despite the chaos. Retreat through that doorway is suicide. Elliot, can your team create a diversion? Already on it, Elliot confirmed. Deploying flashbangs on the south perimeter should draw some fire away from your position. Rourke turned to his remaining team members. 5 still combative, 1 wounded but conscious. On my signal, we push through to the central hub. That's our best chance to link up with Elliot's team. The wounded officer, Thompson, tried to sit up straighter. Sir, I can still shoot. Save your strength, Rourke told him. We'll need every round. A series of explosions erupted from the south side of the complex, followed by increased weapons fire as Way's forces responded to Elliot's diversion. Now, Rourke ordered, springing to his feet, cover formation 2 by 2. His team surged forward, laying down suppressive fire as they advanced deeper into the outpost. The narrow corridor opened into a larger processing room where technicians had already fled, leaving equipment running. The space offered better cover but also more angles of attack. A Sentinel's security officer appeared in a doorway ahead, weapon raised. Rourke fired first, his shot finding its mark. As the man fell, 2 more took his place, forcing Rourke and his team behind processing equipment. "Captain," Walsh's voice came through the comm. "I've got a visual on Way through the east window, second level. He's moving toward what looks like a command center with a security detail." "Can your snipers get a clear shot?" Rourke asked, ducking as bullets pinged off the metal equipment shielding him. "Negative. Too many barriers, and they're keeping away from direct sight lines." Another member of Rourke's team cried out as a bullet found its mark, the round tearing through his leg. 7 of his original 8-person team were now either wounded or dead. "Elliot, we're pinned down in the central processing area," Rourke reported. "Heavy casualties, what's your status?" "Making progress," Elliot replied, sounding strained. "We've breached the main level but taking heavy fire, lost 4 so far." The battle was turning into a bloodbath, exactly what Rourke had hoped to avoid. He had underestimated Way's preparedness and determination. The time for careful tactics had passed. "All units, new objective," Rourke transmitted. "Focus all efforts on reaching the command center. Way is confirmed on the second level. Walsh, have your teams target any external defenses. We need to end this quickly." Rourke turned to his remaining effective fighters. "King, Peters, cover our wounded. Monroe, Roberts, you're with me. We're going for the central stairwell." With renewed determination they pushed forward, fighting room by room through the facility. The spaces were tight, the engagements brutal and close range. Way's forces fought with the desperation of men who knew surrender wasn't an option. In a maintenance junction, they finally linked up with 3 members of Elliot's team, the Major himself among them. His tactical vest was stained with blood, though he seemed uninjured. "Not mine," he explained, seeing Rourke's glance. "Medic didn't make it." "Where's the stairwell?" Rourke demanded. 20 meters ahead, but it's heavily guarded," Elliot replied. "We tried a frontal approach, lost Romano and German." Rourke assessed their diminished force, 8 combat official personnel with at least a dozen of Y's security forces between them and the command center. "The ventilation system," suggested Roberts, pointing to an access panel above them. "Standard colonial design. It'll run parallel to the stairwell, might give us an alternate approach." "It's narrow," Elliot warned. "One person at a time, and we'll be vulnerable while inside." "Which makes it the last thing they'll expect," Rourke decided. "I'll go first. Elliot, keep pressing the direct approach as a diversion. If I can get behind their position, we can catch them in a crossfire." Without waiting for objections, Rourke holstered his sidearm and climbed onto a supply crate to reach the access panel. It came away easily, revealing a narrow but navigable duct. He pulled himself inside, the metal groaning slightly under his weight. The ventilation shaft was hot and confined, barely wide enough for his shoulders. He moved as silently as possible, using his elbows and knees to inch forward. Below, he could hear the continued exchange of gunfire as Elliot's team maintained pressure on Way's forces. Following the shaft's main line, Rourke soon found himself above what had to be the stairwell. Through ventilation grates, he could see 4 of Way's security personnel in defensive positions, their attention focused on the corridor where Elliot's team was engaging. Rourke drew his sidearm and, bracing himself against the shaft walls, kicked out the ventilation grate with both feet. He dropped into the stairwell landing before the startled guards could react, firing as he fell. 2 went down immediately. The others turned to face the unexpected threat, giving Elliot's team the opening they needed to storm the position. In seconds, the stairwell was secure. "Second level," Rourke ordered, already moving up the stairs. "Command center should be central north side." The upper level was quieter, most of Way's forces deployed to counter the main assault. They encountered only token resistance as they moved toward the command center, a large room dominated by monitoring equipment and communication systems. Outside the reinforced door, Rourke paused. "Breach on 3, he instructed. "Way is the priority target. Commander Chamberlain secondary, non-lethal if possible, but take no unnecessary risks." Elliot nodded, positioning himself on the opposite side of the door. The remaining team members spread out, covering all angles. 1, 2, 3, they burst into the command center, weapons raised, expecting the final desperate stand of Way's inner circle. Instead, they found a scene of controlled activity with technicians working at various stations. Commander Chamberlain stood at the central console, her composure unshaken by their violent entrance. but there was no sign of Wei himself. "Where is he?" Rourke demanded, advancing on Chamberlain. She regarded him coolly. "The administrator is no longer in the facility." "It's impossible," Elliot growled. "We've had the outpost surrounded, every exit covered." "Evidently not," Chamberlain replied, her calm infuriating in its completeness. A technician at a nearby terminal caught Rourke's attention, the man's fingers moving slightly too quickly across the controls, his eyes darting repeatedly to a secondary display. "Stop him!" Rourke ordered, but it was too late. The technician had already triggered some kind of protocol, causing multiple systems to shut down simultaneously. "What did you do?" Rourke demanded, seizing the man by his collar. "Standard security procedure," Chamberlain answered for him. "All sensitive data automatically purged on unauthorized entry. The evidence you came for no longer exists." Something in her composure struck Rourke as wrong. This wasn't the behavior of someone who had lost. It was the calculated delay of someone buying time. "Search the facility," he ordered Elliot. "Every room, every closet, every maintenance shaft. Wei's still here somewhere." As Elliot deployed their remaining personnel, Rourke turned back to Chamberlain. "Where is the emergency exit, the one not on the official plans?" A flicker of surprise crossed her face before her composure returned. "I don't know what you're talking about." "You're too calm," Rourke observed, "too confident. Wei has an escape route, and you're covering for him." He leaned closer. "How many more of my people have to die for a man who's already lost?" For the first time, uncertainty showed in Chamberlain's eyes. "The administrator is protecting the colonies, maintaining order." "The colonies are already in open rebellion," Rourke countered. "There is no more order to maintain, just a lie that's cost too many lives already." Before she could respond, Elliot's voice came over the comm. "Captain, we found something. Environmental control room, lower level. There's a maintenance hatch that shows recent use." "Secure these prisoners," Rourke ordered the nearest team member, already moving toward the door. "Escort them to the transports." He made his way quickly through the now secured facility, stepping past the bodies of both Wei's forces and his own people. The cost had been higher than he'd anticipated. At least 10 of his assault team dead, several more wounded. For what? A victory that felt increasingly hollow if Wei escaped. In the environmental control room, Elliot waited beside an open maintenance hatch. "It connects to a secondary cooling system," he explained, "runs beneath the facility, and emerges about 300 meters northeast, in a ravine outside our perimeter." "Did you send a team through?" Rourke asked. "Started to, but it's narrow, barely passable, and if Wei's waiting on the other end with a weapon..." Rourke made a quick decision. "I'm going after him. You secure the outpost and coordinate evacuation of our wounded." "Captain, with respect, that's not wise," Elliot objected. "Let me send a proper team." "There's no time," Rourke insisted, "and no space for a team in that passage." He checked his sidearm. "If I'm not back in 30 minutes, send a search party, but not before." Before Elliot could argue further, Rourke entered the narrow tunnel. It was even tighter than it had looked, forcing him to crouch uncomfortably as he moved forward. The air was stale, heavy with dust and the metallic scent of the cooling systems that ran alongside the passage. His helmet light illuminated only a few meters ahead, the beam swallowed by the darkness beyond. But the path was clear. Disturbed dust, occasional handprints on the walls where someone had steadied themselves. Wei had definitely come this way, and recently. After several minutes of awkward progress, the tunnel began to slope upward. Rourke's muscles protested the uncomfortable position, but he pushed forward, driven by the knowledge that Wei couldn't be far ahead. The chief administrator wasn't a soldier or explorer. Navigating this difficult passage would be even more challenging for him. The tunnel eventually widened slightly, allowing Rourke to stand in a half-crouch rather than crawl. The air became fresher, suggesting the exit was near. He dimmed his helmet light, not wanting to alert Wei to his pursuit. Eventually he saw it, a faint glow ahead where the tunnel opened to the outside world. Rourke slowed his approach, moving as silently as possible. If Wei was waiting at the exit with a weapon, charging forward would be suicidal. But as he neared the opening, what he heard wasn't the sound of someone preparing an ambush. It was ragged breathing, punctuated by what might have been sobs. Cautiously, Rourke edged closer until he could see into the small ravine beyond. Chief Administrator Wei sat slumped against a rock wall just outside the tunnel entrance. His once immaculate uniform was filthy, torn in places from the difficult passage. His right leg was extended awkwardly, suggesting an injury. Most striking was his expression, not the confident, commanding presence that had dominated colonial politics, but a mask of fear and exhaustion. Rourke emerged from the tunnel slowly, his weapon raised. "Don't move, Wei." The administrator startled violently, his head jerking up. When he recognized Rourke, his face cycled rapidly through shock, fear, and finally a strange resignation. "Captain Rourke," he said, his voice hoarse. "I should have known you'd be the one to find me." "On your feet," Rourke ordered coldly. "Hands where I can see them." Wei gestured weakly to his leg. "I can't. Injured it in the tunnel. Some administrator I am, can't even flee properly." A bitter laugh escaped him, edged with hysteria. Rourke kept his weapon trained on Wei as he approached cautiously. The man's injury appeared genuine. His ankle was swollen visibly even through his boot, but Rourke wasn't taking chances. Wei had proven himself manipulative and dangerous. "Where are the others?" Wei asked, looking past Rourke toward the tunnel. "Your execution squad?" "There is no execution squad," Rourke replied evenly. "Unlike you, I don't eliminate people for discovering inconvenient truths, especially not injured, unarmed cowards." Wei's face twisted. "Is that what you think? That I had Duval and Underwood killed because they were, what, moral crusaders? Martyrs for truth?" He shook his head. "You don't understand what was at stake." "Then explain it to me," Rourke challenged, his weapon unwavering. "Explain why lying to the entire colonial population was necessary, why fabricating communications from Earth was justified." "Because the alternative was chaos," Wei snapped, his composure cracking. "When Earth went silent, I had to make a choice. Tell everyone that our home world, the entire support structure our mission was built on, might be gone forever. Watch as 200,000 people realize they might be the last humans alive anywhere." His voice dropped to a near whisper. "Or give them hope, structure, purpose." "You didn't give them hope," Rourke countered. "You took away their agency. Their right to face reality and adapt to it." "We weren't ready," Wei insisted. "The colonies were still establishing basic infrastructure. The Odyssey crash had already destabilized everything. If people learned Earth was gone." He trailed off, then looked up at Rourke with sudden intensity. "What would you have done? If you had been the one to discover the silence, would you have immediately broadcast it to everyone? Watched as panic spread?" For a moment, Rourke considered the question honestly. If he had been the first to discover Earth's silence, would he have immediately shared that devastating news with colonies still struggling to establish themselves? Or would he have sought a more measured approach? But the comparison was false, and he knew it. "I would have told the truth," he said firmly, "because lies don't create stability. They create exactly what we're seeing now. Division, conflict. The Paradise Protocol didn't protect the colonies, it corrupted them." Wei didn't respond immediately. He seemed to collapse inward, his shoulders sagging. "And now what? You take me back in chains? Execute me as a traitor?" "You'll stand trial," Rourke said. "Answer for your actions, publicly. The people you deceived deserve that much." "They'll tear me apart," Wei said quietly, genuine fear in his voice. "You've seen the mobs in Sentinel, in New Dawn. They want blood." "What they want is accountability," Rourke corrected, "and justice." Wei's hand moved suddenly toward his jacket. Rourke tensed, finger tightening on the trigger of his weapon, but froze when he saw what Wei had drawn. Not a weapon, but a small data crystal. "What is that?" Rourke demanded. "Everything," Wei answered simply. "The complete Paradise Protocol documentation when Earth signals stopped. Who knew? What we did." He held it out with a shaking hand. Take it, use it, but understand this, I wasn't the only one involved. The entire council knew. Phillips, Ezra, all of them. They authorized every step. Rourke accepted the crystal cautiously, not lowering his weapon. This doesn't absolve you. Of course not, Wei agreed, a strange calm settling over him. Nothing could. But maybe it explains. He looked up at Rourke, his expression unexpectedly vulnerable. I thought I was protecting them, all of them. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe you're right and people are stronger than I believed, but I never— His voice broke. I never wanted anyone to die. For the first time, Rourke felt a flicker of something other than contempt for the man before him. Not sympathy, exactly, but recognition of the human beneath the administrator's mask. Wei had made catastrophic choices, had authorized terrible actions. But he had done so believing, however misguidedly, that he was serving the greater good. It didn't excuse his crimes, but it complicated the narrative of the villain Rourke had constructed in his mind. On your feet, Rourke said again, but his tone had lost some of its edge. If you can't walk, I'll help you. Wei looked surprised, as if he had expected something else entirely, perhaps a bullet. Slowly, with obvious pain, he attempted to stand, using the rock wall for support. His injured ankle gave way immediately, and he would have fallen if Rourke hadn't moved forward to catch him. I've got you, Rourke said, holstering his weapon and supporting Wei's weight. But we're going back through the tunnel. You're facing what you've done. Wei nodded, resignation replacing fear. I know. The journey back through the narrow tunnel was slow and arduous. Wei winced with each movement, his injured ankle clearly causing him significant pain. When they finally emerged into the outpost's lower level, Elliot was waiting with 2 security officers, their expressions hardening at the sight of Wei. Stand down, Rourke ordered, noting their tense posture. He's surrendered. 12 dead, Captain, Elliot said, his voice tight with controlled anger. 8 more wounded. Rourke nodded grimly. He'll answer for all of it. He transferred Wei to the security officers. Get him to medical, then secure him for transport. Full restraints, constant supervision. As they led Wei away, Rourke held up the data crystal. This contains the complete Paradise Protocol documentation, according to Wei, including Earth's final transmission. Final transmission? Elliot's eyebrows rose. I thought Earth just went silent. Apparently there's more to the story, Rourke replied. Something they decided was too devastating to share. Outside, the transports were being loaded with wounded personnel. The day's victory felt hollow amidst the cost in lives. As Vanguard's forces prepared for departure, Rourke took one last look at the outpost. A battlefield now, marked by the violence that deception inevitably creates. Tomorrow would bring the difficult work of truth-telling, of rebuilding trust among the colonies. But today they had at least stopped the lie from claiming more victims. Wei would face justice, and the people would finally learn what had really happened to Earth. For better or worse, a new chapter in humanity's story on this world was beginning. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave it a like and to subscribe if you'd like to see more. Feel free to comment and share it as well. With all that said, go on and check out the video in the top left. I think you might like it.